This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Hump Day! And it calls for sports talk on this Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. Welcome in, folks, to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network on another live edition of SportsMinute, emulating live across the good old US of A on this Wednesday evening alongside Chris P. Bacon, Chris Mabry, James Gonzalez, and Big B, Brandon Herrera, yours truly, Cal McClurg, out from the bullpen for the man Adam Barber on this Wednesday night. Chris P. Bacon, good to see you, man. I know the Mavericks won Game 1 tonight. Good to see you, bud. How we doing?
Doing good.
We're not talking
them. Yeah, close game by Dallas, but hopefully the other games won't be as close. I don't know.
Also, of course, my man, Big Game James Gonzalez, joining us up in Oceanside, California. Big Game James, how we doing tonight, man? We had a great show last night, despite technical difficulty, torture last night. But how we doing, man? Good to see you again. 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, we're doing the shifts, definitely. Some pair of game ones. I'd love to talk about that and much more here on Sports Minute.
And, of course, our resident Wolves fan, Big B, Brandon Herrera. You saw him, folks, on Rankem earlier in the day, I believe, or even yesterday as well. Of course, him and Tim doing a great job in the morning slate of programs on Rankem. Brandon, good to see you, my friend. How's it going tonight?
No, it's going good. Poker didn't go so hot, so then I saw the Wolves lose in a close one. I'm not upset. It wasn't a blowout. It was a good game. Outside of that, just kind of hanging around, ready to talk.
Ready to do it here tonight with the sports coverage. Now, folks, on a very serious note, before we get to the sports coverage, for those wondering about what's going on with C2C right now, you folks may have heard, may have not heard. We've been kind of keeping it maybe behind closed doors right now. But I know that James and I talked about it a little bit on Tuesday evening. But for those of you who don't know what's going on right now, reason being that I'm filling in tonight for Adam Barber is that right now his wife is going through surgery, and she had a bit of a setback over the past day or two. And Adam is kind of, in a way, stepping away for right now, and we're going to be giving him time, ample time to come back, get himself and the kids and the family back on track. And as James and I said on here on last night on C2C at night, is that, all four of us on this panel tonight have lives away from hosting programs here. So you may or may not see Adam for a bit here. Again, we're giving him ample time to, again, be with the family. Again, hoping that his wife gets better and that the kids are fine and stuff like that. So just wanted to kind of come out here real quick and kind of let you know what's going on right now behind the scenes with all of us right now. As we said, the value of life sometimes outweighs hanging out with your friends, doing a live stream show at 9:30 in the evening on a Wednesday in San Diego and stuff of that caliber. So just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of some housekeeping notes. So we may or may not have certain programs that Adam would be on perhaps right now on this week, which would involve kicking it, maybe even some other programs at this rate. But we're going to try our best to pick up the pieces and, of course, keep things in line as time goes on. We'll also, folks, have more, by the way, about what James and I talked about with the exciting announcement made last night about the upcoming roller hockey league that we're going to be covering here on Coast to Coast. Again, I'll be having the big meeting with Josh Fontaine, league commissioner, on Thursday afternoon. We do have a logo. We have a name for the podcast now, as we heard on Tuesday. We'll save that, though, for later in the show. We don't want to keep you folks here too long here tonight. With that, guys, over in Major League Baseball, we'll also kind of keep the ongoing Ohtani saga kind of in the rear view mirror right now. James and I touched base on it on Tuesday. But more so, guys, we're about 50 games into the regular season right now. So far, I think we've had a great share of surprises so far. And, of course, some letdowns right now, 50, 51 games into the season. James and I, we talked about this last night. So, Brandon, I'll actually start with you, buddy. Team-wise in both the AL and National League, let's hear which teams in your mind have been your biggest surprise so far, but also your biggest letdown or disappointment in both the AL and NL. And I know, man, we can go a lot of different ways right now with how the season has played out so far in 2024.
Yeah, you can play it out a lot. Just kind of looking at the standings here quick. I guess in the American League, I kind of hate to say it, but I mean, the Yankees kind of are surprising me a little bit. I mean, I know they're the first, but, they got a 3-game lead right now. Toronto's kind of falling back, 10 games back. The Central's definitely fun to watch. The Twins have been up and down. In the NL, it's kind of surprising to see the Mets, already 15 games back. Pittsburgh started off hot, but they've kind of fallen off. Of course, in the West, Dodgers, Padres, San Fran looks like they might be battling. I know Padres and San Fran are, 7-8 games back, but overall, I mean, it's still early a month in. These standings could change, but I'm always good for watching baseball. I mean, the Braves, I guess, could be a team too that could be kind of shocking.
Agreed.
6 games back right now, so.
Yeah, Brandon, I think James and I touched base on this on Tuesday, is that James and I agreed about Cleveland probably being our big American League surprise right now because, again, they've kind of come out of nowhere a little bit. And I think we all agreed, though, in some capacity back in March or even early April that the AL Central may have been the most winnable division because we had talked about, I think, at length here on SportsMinute, even back in February, maybe even in March, that the Twins have regressed in some fashion. The Royals, I think, they're a sneaky team right now. I think both Cleveland and Kansas City could both be surprises in the AL, and also that division, as we pointed out, is probably up for grabs throughout the remainder of the season. Then I believe that James and I said that our biggest letdown is the Blue Jays for that core that they have right now between Biggio and Bichette, Vlad Jr., George Springer, but also that their pitching has not been there. The offense has sputtered in a few, key situations in some games this year. But again, they're in a very rough and tough division in the American League East. And I believe, though, in the National League, I think one surprise I do think that James and I did not touch base on, honestly, I would probably say I'm very surprised by Philadelphia right now. This is a team, though, guys, who 2 years in a row, I think, has had unfulfilled expectations. World Series loss in 2022, very surprising, shocking upset at the hands of Arizona in 2023 with that lethal offense, a very great pitching staff, a untouchable bullpen. It almost kind of feels like they could be in the same conversation to maybe James and I talking on Tuesday about this being the Boston Celtics time in the NBA or the New York Rangers time in the NHL. That right now Philadelphia might be my biggest National League surprise. But biggest disappointment so far for me has got to be Toronto in the American League for the fact of the offense has been very hit or miss. They've been very streaky. And Brandon, I agree with you more so about the Mets being a letdown because we now have the open commentary of Steve Cohen, who kind of in a way already is laying out his plan to really boom goes the dynamite and blow up this roster. We've heard the rumblings of a contract extension for Pete Alonso. 5 years, $170 million has been offered. Pete may in fact say no at this rate. And then who knows what happens with Jeff McNeil or even a Francisco Lindor and Edwin Diaz. Does Cohen, after trying to build a super team 2 years ago that fizzles out to San Diego and then have a horrible, downfall in 2023, what does 2024 have played out, though? And also, I think, though, James, as we go to you, I think Tim Hendricks, though, man, read our mind. He is surprised that his Milwaukee Brewers are as high as they are in the National League standings, especially after they lost Corbin Burns via the trade to Baltimore. And I think, James, we touched base on that on Tuesday, that Milwaukee, I think, is probably another big NL surprise, though, because the Cubs right now are right on their heels. That division is kind of in a way a two-team race right now. St. Louis has fallen off again. The Reds fell off the face of the earth. Pittsburgh had a great start. They've fallen off. It feels like it's really going to be Chicago, Milwaukee for the remainder of the season. But, James, maybe to kind of reaffirm your thoughts from Tuesday, where are your surprises and disappointments right now across baseball through about the first 50 games of the season?
I think what's great about Milwaukee, too, they're without Brandon Woodruff, who had to go underneath the knife. So they're doing it, and they'll probably be active in that trade market, definitely, to get a little bit better than the Cubs. So they've been fun. Like I mentioned yesterday, my great surprise is the Kansas City Royals in the American League, 32-19. Their home record 21-8.
Holy cow!
They've won 6 in a row, just like the Guardians have. They're a game and a half behind Cleveland, so that's really great. I mean, it's not only just Bobby Witt Jr. It's other guys making an impact. Salvador Perez has found the fountain of youth. You know, he's been taking catcher nights off, going to DH, and that's been helping others play. Their rotation's really solid. They made the moves. They have a pretty solid bullpen, but they could also make some moves too. They have the room to do it, and it's just great to see because that team needed that boost after not being relevant for a little bit. Bobby Witt Jr. was like the first one to get it going. So that was really cool to see. The biggest disappointment definitely in the American League is the Toronto Blue Jays at 22-26, last 10.5 back already. They're only 500 at home and 12-12, 4 games under on the road. That's just never going to get done, especially in that division. Red Sox have kind of been a little bit of a surprise there, but you're never expecting much. They didn't put much money toward the team's roster. I know Devers was mad about that. So it's really great to see at least the Red Sox trying. But yeah, the Blue Jays, their offense has been helter-skelter. The pitching really isn't enough. So that's been an issue as well. And we heard the trade rumors recently with Vlad Jr. and Biggio and Bichette. The rotation is not as good. They only have Barrios as their ace. Kikuchi is a little bit off, I should say. For the National League, I'm not really surprised by the Phillies. They have an abundance of talent. The rotation.
True point.
They re-signed just before the season. They signed extensions to Nola and Wheeler, something that the fans were kind of worried about after the season. They don't got to worry about it anymore. And when they did that, I thought, okay, they're right there with the Braves. They just have to beat them. And right now, they're 6 games above them. So the surprise, I think I mentioned that was good in the National League. It was the Nationals, but they kind of fallen as of late. But that was fun when they were 500, I think, at one point, 19-19, I want to say. I don't really have a surprising good team in the National League. It's like everybody else has kind of fallen to where they should be. I guess the Cubs, you would think, being 4 games above 500. And that has to go to Shota. He's been amazing. He beat Fernando Valenzuela's first 9 starts mark of the lowest ERA ever in his first 9 starts. So he's been amazing. So maybe a surprise are the Cubs. But once they got Bellinger, I think they said, okay, we're going to run it back and even improve even more. They're not even missing Stroman right now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the biggest disappointment to me, National League, I've already known the Cardinals were going to do this, but actually they keep winning. They've won 3 straight, so maybe they're on their way up. The Reds and Diamondbacks being where they are, especially the Reds being 9 games under 500 in last place. Maybe David Bell is on his way out, who knows, in the National League Central. The Diamondbacks at 23-26, maybe that's because they made some moves. They got Montgomery and Rodriguez for the rotation.
Yeah, Eugenio Suarez.
Carroll, I think the league has kind of figured him out, so they're kind of a disappointment to me. And then the Mets, I never really thought they were going to do anything this year. I thought they're going to be exactly where they're going to be. So I don't find it a surprise, and they just have to blow it up. I know in that market, you're like, hey, you cannot blow it up. You have to stay competitive. But you're way behind the Yankees and the tri-state area. You're way behind the Phillies. You're even behind the Pirates by 2 games, so you just blow it up. So yeah, that's my surprises and positive, negative. I mean.
So again, Chris, we can go a lot of different ways, man, with 50 games of the baseball season being done. So, Chris, if you have any surprises or disappointments, my man, what do you got for baseball? And, the Rangers, again, trying to defend their World Series championship this year in 2024.
Yeah, so, like you're saying, Rangers trying to defend that title. 1 and 2, Seattle and Rangers, they've been kind of going back and forth. Houston, not that far behind, neither is, the Angels. Oakland, they're doing their thing. I don't know. Cleveland, another surprise in the positive department, whereas the negative side, Toronto is not doing too well. Over on the national side, National League, Philadelphia's been playing well. They got 2 straight over the Rangers so far. Miami's not doing too well. And then, I have the Dodgers. Even though they kind of had a head start, they're doing pretty well. San Diego's not far behind either. And then you got Arizona and Colorado kind of falling behind. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could go a lot of different ways, though, when it comes to surprises and disappointments. And we're only like 51, 52 games into the season right now at this rate with how things are going in Major League Baseball. With that, guys, we'll shift gears over to the NBA postseason. Game 1 of the NBA Western Conference Finals. It came down to the wire. The Dallas Mavericks seize home court and win 108-105 over the Minnesota Timberwolves from a sold-out and jam-packed Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota on this Wednesday evening. Again, this game was punch, counter-punch all the way down to the end of the game. But, James, I'll start with you on this one, man. And, again, we talked a lot about, basketball and hockey on the show on Tuesday evening, and we both want this one to go 7 games. And I think if we're in for something special after this first game of the postseason of the Western Conference Finals, I should say. But James, Dallas pulls one out on the road, more importantly, 108-105. James, give us your takeaways from this game 1 win for the Mavericks over the Wolves.
Yeah, Minnesota did lead at the half, but then late they let Dallas just run by them, literally. There was a couple of big runs Dallas had to kind of secure the game. One in particular, I think late, it was like 8-0 run or 13-2 run, and that really sealed the deal for Dallas right there. That was amazing how Kyrie and Luka kind of took turns going on and off. Luka had 33, Kyrie had 30, PJ Washington with 13. So that was a pretty good scoring by those guys. The other guys chipped in too. And again, the Mavericks have 62 points in the paint. And you would thought, well, how do you let that happen when you have Gobert and you have Cat? Well, whenever Gobert would go off the floor and go on the bench, Dallas quickly took advantage of that. And like I mentioned yesterday at C2C at night, Luka and Kyrie, they have a thing where they could dribble drive off the pick and roll or just get to somewhere, create a double team, and just alley-oop to Gafford and Lively. And Lively had 9 points as well. So both guys were just tremendous offensively, doing what they did last series against Oklahoma City. It's funny, too, because Dallas missed a lot of wide-open three-pointers, so the lead could have been even more for Dallas. And Minnesota, I believe, they shot over 40 three-pointers and missed a good amount of them. That was truly, truly bad there.
18 for 49.
Yeah, I just saw it. There it is. 36% there. And then 6 for 25 for Dallas. So if you like the old school basketball and the ball going in, you like today's game. And that was a big key. And also a big key about Denver, when they held opponents under 100, they were 6-0. And you saw today they gave up 108. So again, with Kyrie and Luka combining for 63 points, that was great. And then I love Anthony Edwards, but man, he called out Kyrie saying, "I want to guard him right away." Well, guess what? You got him, and he stole off on you, and I remember the post game. Edwards was saying, and Cat too, were saying, "Hey, they were just tired coming off the 7-game series against Oklahoma City," and a lot of the analysts were kind of dogging them about that because, hey, it's only game 1. You're home. You're supposed to have energy. You're young. How would you let a kind of veteran squad with Luka and Kyrie come in and outrun you and outplay you? They have to adjust. I mean, the big guys got to get out of foul trouble for Minnesota. Naz Reid has to be better defensively. I know he did put in 15 points, but his plus and minus was negative 11, so he was giving up some points there. Yeah, Minnesota has to adjust definitely and play their game and their style of basketball. It's got to start with Edwards, and then you get the 2 guys involved in front. But we were talking yesterday about both teams being great defensively, something you don't really see, but in the playoffs it kind of shows out. And Dallas, surprisingly, was the best one tonight. So we'll see for game 2 on Friday if the roles are reversed or if Minnesota is in trouble going down 0-2 going to Dallas. And Dallas would be a raucous crowd knowing that, hey, we haven't been to the finals in 2011. It's time to get past these conference finals. And Luka, because remember I mentioned yesterday, Luka's on that middle tier.
Right.
He's trying to get to where Giannis. He's trying to get to where who won in 22? Jokic. You're trying to get to that level, and right now he's at that Trae Young, Devin Booker kind of level where you're trying to get up one more. And it's pretty cool seeing Kyrie, as much as I don't like some of his antics. You're starting to see him guide this team. He mentioned last series that he told the team, hey, with all my failures, I did come out a couple of times as a winner. I could show you how to do this. And I think Kyrie showed his experience tonight against the young Wolves.
Brandon, I want to go to you. Obviously, the Wolves losing in a spectacular game, though, despite the scoreline 108-105, Game 1 Western Conference Finals between the Mavericks and the Wolves from Target Center. Is I think, though, that something that I just now looked at on the box score, and something that is a little bit alarming, Brandon, from my perspective for Minnesota, the lack of depth behind the 8-man rotation. 7 players for Minnesota, all DNPs for a coach's decision. That, I think, is a little bit alarming that you don't have too many guys to fall on. You only have 3 guys off the bench right now for Minnesota. 7 players, again, were DNPs tonight. That, I think, does become a little bit of a concern from my perspective. I know it's 1 game, 1 loss, shower it off, come back out and play better on Friday. But James alluded to it, though, about maybe the fatigue factor settles in after you come off that high, you knock out the defending champions in their home arena in Game 7. You have to come back out, play against a kind of a rested Dallas team, veteran-led ball club, but also not having too many bullets in the gun to be able to kind of go to the bench and bring someone fresh into the game where you're rolling an 8-man rotation. That, I think, could be a little bit of a focal point why the Wolves probably don't go as far as we want them to go. But, Brandon, your overall thoughts on seeing Minnesota playing Game 1 versus Dallas tonight from Minneapolis?
That's not shocking. They've done that 90% of the year where they've only played 8-9 guys out the bench. But I think James is right. Nas needs to play better. And I thought was going to have more of a killer instinct. I didn't watch most of the second half. I was doing other things, but I don't know what it is. But they just, with the 4 or 3 losses at home in the last 2 rounds, don't seem like they're getting that energy for some reason from the home crowd. I don't know what it is, especially when they went up 2-0 against Denver. They come home, dropped 2, then they went back to Denver. Lost Game 3, and then came back home and blew out Denver. And then this one too, they just don't. I don't know what it is. I kind of scratch my head, and just doesn't seem like they're getting that home energy with them. I mean, it was a good first half, like James said, and then this second half they kind of fell out of their way. And James, you nailed it too. They got to play their type of game. They can't mesh up with these teams that like to run and gun, even though they are young. I mean, and also the Wolves, especially some of these younger guys aren't used to playing this late in the season, unlike Denver and
True
Dallas.
point.
So they're not
Playoff
used to.
inexperience.
Yep. Yeah. So this is one I said it at the beginning of this playoff series or playoff season, I guess. This is Ant's coming out party. Ant needs to have a good series each and every time. They're only going to go as far as Ant will take them. So yeah, I just think it's going to be the game 2. They got to come out firing, and if that means you got to extend the bench, you got to go, 10 guys, 12 guys, or use the whole bench to get these guys some rest. Do it. I mean, yeah, you want your guns out there in a close game, but you also need them for up to a 7-game series, and so they need to extend that bench a little bit. So we'll see what game 2 brings. Hopefully, more energy and more light out of the Wolves. Because towards the end there, James, I don't know if you noticed or Callan, you noticed, they seemed beaten even though the game was close. The Wolves, to me, look like they knew that they just can't muster it, and that could be exhaustion or just lack of energy. I don't know, but they seem like they knew they were beat.
I think it's a combination of both, Brandon. And I've kind of been in that spot where you come off winning a game like a Game 7, for example. Again, you knock out the defending league champions in their arena in Denver. You do that, and then it feels like a letdown when you come back and play the next game because you're on that high, and it's hard to kind of capture that lightning back in the bottle. Best case example, the first year I began working in D2 athletics at the college level, our women's basketball team at Point Loma Nazarene got in as, I believe, the 8th seed into the D2 March Madness tournament. They had to go up to Anchorage, Alaska, and play the number 1 seeded team who had not lost at home like all season or the past couple years. They win the game at the final buzzer on a game-winning layup. The next day, they get absolutely plastered. And I talked to a bunch of my friends on that team, and I said, you were thinking about that UAA game still, weren't you? And they're like, yeah, we were. Like, it was hard to kind of like get off that all-time high of like, we just beat the number 1 ranked team in Division II basketball, then having to go on and play a day or two later, and the doors happen to get blown off, sadly, because it's hard to kind of capture that moment and feel. And Brandon, before I go to Christo, I think you brought up an excellent point, though. Is we always hear about home court advantage, home field advantage, and home ice advantage in the postseason. Brandon, I really hate to go down this rabbit hole, but you kind of are leading me down there because I agree, though, when I was watching this game in the first half, even the second half, where the Wolves were even up in the like early in the first half, like the crowd was just not into this game. And I don't know if it was for the fact of like it's a Wednesday night, it's a 7:00 Central Time game time. It's hard to get to Target Center in downtown. But it just seemed like, though, Brandon, throughout this game, it felt like it was like you were watching a tennis match almost. And I hate to say that about about the great people that are Wolves fans, but it just did not have like that playoff vibe. And I don't know if it's for the fact of like, wow, we're actually here. Like even the fans are starstruck. We're in the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 20 seasons. Brandon, what probably could be a factor maybe for like this first game of like the crowd maybe not really getting behind the Wolves, and maybe that was a bit of a collective letdown though for those guys on the floor?
It could be the factor that, hey, we're here for the first time in 20 years. Okay, this is good. You guys got to remember, I mean, they weren't expected to be this high of a seed. They've been honestly probably the second best team all year behind Boston. So we were kind of riding the high, and a lot of fans in Minnesota, as much as we want our team to go to the championship game, a lot of us are like, oh, they over-exceeded my expectations. They just won 7 games with the defending champs.
I'm fine. I'm satisfied. We knocked out Denver, so I don't care what happens from here.
I mean, like I told my son and a few other people, I even told Tim today, just get me to the finals. You don't have to win it this year, but just give me a taste of it. Give me a taste of what that finals is going to be like, and I'll be happy. The first time in 20 years to be in the Western Conference Finals. Hey, I'm happy. I hope they do good. Game one. If I get 6 more games like this, I'll be okay because they weren't supposed to be there. And I kind of think that's what halted the sales because now Taylor's like, oh, my team's actually good. I think we're going to pull back a little bit here and make it harder to
Sorry, A-Rod.
So I think that's kind of childish if that's what it comes down to. But yeah, I think right now I think a lot of fans are in awe and shocked that we made it this far and just kind of like, okay, we gave you guys, now you guys got to give us a little something. So we'll see where it goes.
And Brandon, and again, Chris, we'll get to you in just a second, though, my man. But Brandon, you're so right though, because I was in that same exact boat in 2022 with the Padres. Again, we make these trades for Juan Soto and Josh Bell and Brandon Drury and Josh Hader, and we assemble what felt like, within a game or two of the World Series. But again, we're not expected to go to New York and beat the Mets in a 3-game wild card series, and we did 2 out of 3.
Yep.
Then you go to the DS like, oh my God, we got to play the freaking Los Angeles Dodgers, and I was like right there, like, okay, whatever. But then we win the damn thing. I was at Not Scary Farm, with my gal pal, and I was watching the clinching game while trying to elude scare actors and having my phone drop because someone, shoved a pie in my face full of nails and toenail clippings in my face for the Halloween event. Watching this, it was a fake pie, James, don't worry. But like watching the game, like meandering through traffic, and literally when Hader strikes out Freeman to end the game and the Padres win to go to the CS, like I almost wanted to run out of the theme park and like call my parents like, this is the greatest thing ever since 1998. Holy crap, we're going to the NLCS. And then like after that, it was like, okay, if we get to the World Series, that's cool. I've been to a game in 1998 when I was 5 years old. Yeah, we lost to the Yankees, but beating the Dodgers is almost like the Wolves beating the Nuggets. It's like you just knocked out the defending champions. In our case, you beat your biggest rival in your division, 111 win team. Now anything else after that is gravy. And with that in mind, I want to say hello real quick to our great man, Jack Braun, who is not, I don't think he's missed one show that we have done for a while here, either on C2C at night or even on Press Row or even here, on Sports Minute. But Chris, now down to the Victor side of game one again, Dallas winning over the Wolves 108-105. Again, as James said, a 63 combined point effort between Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic in this game. And I think, though, more than anything else, though, Chris, is that this is a 5-seed Dallas team who I think very well, man, has always been good, but they've always had like the Clippers kind of sideswipe them in round 1, or they would get knocked out in round 2. And this Dallas team, I think, like James said, though, they've waited 13 years to kind of get back to this spot right now. Conference final appearance, trying to get over that hurdle again to get back to the finals for the first time since they won it in 2011. Chris, what went right for the Mavericks and for Jason Kidd and the crew tonight up in Minnesota?
I would think Luka staying under, calm and not sporadic and, just doing what they need to do. And I think that, whether it be the Mavericks or whoever, I think what the Rangers did last year of winning most of their games on the road, maybe there is no home field or home court or whatever the case may be. I think it's, it's going to be a split, or you're just riding the high of the fans wherever you go.
And Chris, that is a great point you brought up, though. And I love the comparison, though, too. At this rate, almost, it feels like home. And that's why I kind of said that about when Brandon and I were on the tangent about, maybe the Minnesota crowd. Again, I don't want to pile on a small market franchise because, again, living in San Diego, for God's sakes, and how the Padres have been over my lifetime, though. But just like there was like the vibe and energy just kind of felt off, though, in Target Center tonight, where, like Brandon said, though, maybe it's like this is like a consolation prize. You gave me what you could, though. You gave me the best thing. You knocked out Denver. Anything else from here is gravy. But now I think, though, Chris, with your point, though, I agree, though, 100%, though, that at this rate, it kind of feels like there's no home field or home ice or home court because of how the Mavericks have won on the road throughout the postseason. The Rangers, again, I think they won 11 straight road games last year on the road through the wild card round, the DS, CS, and the World Series. And also, Jack is into the box. Pun not intended there for those of you who know about Jack in the Box restaurants. Jack does right, though. What went right in his mind is simply Luka's greatness showed out tonight when the Wolves went on that run late and took the lead. Luka took it personally and went on his own personal 7-0 run to give Dallas the victory, which I think, Brandon, goes to your point, though. More than anything else, though, is that Minnesota, I mean, it just kind of seemed like, though, that inexperience, I think, though, again, for the Wolves kind of came back to fruition, and they couldn't really lock down Luka or Kyrie in this game, and that Luka kind of, in a way, took it personally. Where you said, though, they didn't really, like they being the Wolves, didn't really have that sort of killer instinct or mentality in this game tonight.
Yeah, I don't think they had, and I know a lot comes from the fans, and the fans just, I think, got beat down right away, and maybe they're still on cloud 9 from Game 7 and Game 6.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Game 6 was a blowout. I would never guess that. And then go over to Denver again and win there to bring home Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So maybe the fans are just on cloud 9 right now. Maybe they needed another extra day off. I don't know. So we'll see what Friday brings.
And I also want to say, before we move on to recap the game from Tuesday in the Eastern Conference, is a lot of times, though, too, I think we all agree here, though, is that when there's a team like like Minnesota or Indiana who's on like this heater, they're winning games. They're kind of overlooked right now at this rate. But my biggest thing, though, is it's almost like, though, when, though, does your luck run out? Can you keep coming back, though, in Minnesota's case, being down double digits by 10, 15, 20 points, night in and night out? When, though, does a better team finally say, you know what, stop, we're not going to let this happen? And I think that was kind of the case tonight in Game 1, though. But again, it's a whole new day, though, come Friday. Real quick, we'll get to Jack's comment here about this game as well. James, I'll start with you. Jack writes in, James, do you guys agree with the basket interference call that wiped out Towns' dunk? Thought that play was huge. James, what do you think about this?
Yeah, the ball was definitely over the cylinder, and then I think it grazed the rim as well. So I definitely agree with the call that they had to review it. I know it was a big, big deal, but definitely it was over the cylinder, and then it made contact. So that's definitely a violation.
James, do you think that was but perhaps a potential back-breaking or turning point moment of the game, of the ball game?
Yeah, because we all mentioned that they didn't have the same energy. They felt defeated, even though the game was close. And once they got down by 4 in that point, it just seemed like once Dallas scored again, and by the way, they were like 90+% in their free throws tonight. Mm-hmm. So once they got another free throw chance, another basket, it was over. So I think that deflated them even more.
Brandon, what is your thoughts on the wiped out cat dunk that was called for basket interference? What did you think? I mean, obviously, huge moment in this game.
Honestly, I'll have to go back and see the clip. I mean, I'll have to go by what James said, that it was a good review call. And that's one thing, too, is you can't let the team or that play in any sport dictate your feelings for the game. It's one play. There's still 50 other plays that can be made to help you out, play defense, stuff like that. So it does seem like the Wolves do, when they feel a call didn't go their way, kind of get down on themselves.
Shut down.
Yeah. So we'll, I'll have to go back and review that play because I have not seen it.
Chris, obviously this helped out the Mavericks, though, with the points coming off the board, but certainly, though, a huge play in your mind, yes?
I would think so. I mean, any play like that helps, but I think it does.
James, I do think, though, that sadly that this play right here kind of, though, raises a little bit of a red flag in my mind. Is this really a call, though, James, you can make, though, in a playoff game and when it's down to the wire like that, in your opinion?
Yeah, because they have the ability now to review it, so you got to do it. And, imagine the Mavericks lose that game by 2, they'll go back to that, and then guess what? We have to hear that candy-ass 2-minute report,
baby.
and nobody wants to hear about that, especially Mav fans like Chris. So, yeah, I don't ever want to put someone in that situation. So they have to get it right.
And I think they obviously did. And Jack, great point, though, pointing out again a potential. It's obviously a game deciding play, maybe. Hopefully not a series altering play as well. But again, Dallas over Minnesota, great game though to kick off the conference finals in the Western Conference. 108-105, the Mavericks over the Timberwolves from Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Guys, let's kind of quickly run back through the game on Tuesday. Another great overtime thriller to kick off the conference finals on Tuesday. The Boston Celtics held off the Pacers 133-128 on Tuesday from TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Although, guys, boiling down to not 1, not 2, but 3 back-breaking turnovers in the waning minutes of the game by the Pacers, 2 of which obviously could have been easily maybe overturned by challenges or anything else, or just more than anything else, though. The Pacers really, in a way, self-destructing in their own backcourt on inbound possessions that lead, of course, to the turnover that leads to Jaylen Brown hitting that beautifully shot, falling away, fadeaway three-pointer, and then forcing OT with the Celtics coming out on top, 133-128 in that contest. And James, I know that we talked at length, though, on Tuesday about this game, but man, oh man, the Pacers, like I said, man, they had the Celtics on the ropes and reeling. They were cut, they were bleeding. They were taking body blow, and body blow, but they could not deliver the TKO punch to knock the Celtics out, though. And they, I think, broke their back, though, 3 separate times in their own backcourt to lose that game, in my opinion. Of course, Jaylen Brown with that absolute, I think that shot, guys, we're going to be talking about for the remainder of the postseason at this rate, because it's going to live in lore now at this rate, whether the C's win or not. But again, James, maybe a Cliff Notes version about that game last night, because I think, though, James, we know that Indiana's offense is high octane. I mean, they, 128, 130, 140 points that we have seen that Pacers team put up, though. But man, though, James, at the very end, though, to lose in that fashion, that is heartbreak for the Pacers.
It's the little things that kill. That's just unfortunate. And then the fact that Carlisle, the head coach, had 3 timeouts there, when those turnovers happen, like, hey, they could have called timeout, advanced the ball, and then get a good, inbound play in. You decided to let, the young guys, make the plays and make the decisions. And that's where sometimes you have to step in and say, okay, hey, we're going to get this right. We're going to call play, and we're going to make this work and make our free throws and get out of here with the win. That didn't happen. Tatum and Brown both did their thing, over 30 points each. You just knew, like, if you gave the Celtics so many chances, they're bound to tie that game, and they did. And then it got really sloppy in overtime, too.
Ooh,
a lot of fouls, not many baskets made, but the Celtics, made their free throws when they did. Halliburton did pretty much all he could. Remember, he made the halftime buzzer beater and the third quarter ending buzzer beater. But man, it's one of those games. You're like, man, if Indiana could just, I don't want to say it, but grow up a little bit in those situations and do what's right, they would have had game 1 and were ready, like Dallas stolen home court. That would have been good. But game 2, I'm looking forward to, because Boston has lost every game 2 so far in the playoffs to Miami and Cleveland. It's a different team, though. The Pacers are coming off that 7-game series. Now, if anybody has the right to be tired, it is the Pacers, because they're younger, and the Knicks played them so much tougher than the Thunder played Dallas. They have the right to be tired. But yeah, I can't wait for game 2.
Jack writes in, poor Indiana SMH. The Reggie Miller meme has gone against them this time around. Ha, ha, ha. James, kind of quickly, though, I mean, I know I asked you that the question on Tuesday on C2C at night. But now, though, now you've kind of, in a way, I think, like the light bulb's gone on for me now. Is game one a reflection of the Celtics winning the game because of playoff experience, or does the blame now go on Rick Carlisle and poor coaching decisions for the Pacers with those 3 timeouts and them not spending one of the 3 to get the ball out of the backcourt?
I think they lost it. I hate that question, but it has to be asked. The loser hates answering that question, but yeah, I think it was Carlisle and the Pacers just like I said, taking the timeout and getting it together, advancing the ball, and making sure we run a play that'll work. Remember, it was like 2 plays where they could have ran out the clock and run the shot clock down and the game clock down, get a good shot, and just try to get up a little more. A couple of times they couldn't do that. So, yeah, that's definitely on the Pacers and Rick Carlisle. And he even admitted, too, after the game of the presser, he said, hey, that's my fault. We'll do better in game 2 of situations like that if it arrives. So, yeah, I do blame Rick for that.
Yeah, and Joe Mazzulla out coaching Rick Carlisle by using timeouts in those big situations of the game. Jack, I think James agrees with you. I thought that what did the Pacers in was Carlisle not calling timeouts to prevent the turnovers, them continuing shooting threes when it was not going in, and Pascal Siakam very passive and was not aggressive. As Indiana, by the way, 13 of 35 from beyond the arc in game 1 of the ball game. But Brandon, maybe your thoughts here, more about the Celtics playoff experience, winning this game, Rick Carlisle and the Pacers, inexperienced ball club, but veteran-led head coach, not calling his timeouts, though, in crunch time with not 1, not 2, and 3 different backcourt backcourt turnovers, I should say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Pacers' lack of execution, I guess we can call, with the timeouts.
Great point.
With the backcourt violations. Listen to a lot of media today about that game. I think they're all in agreement that the Pacers had 3 or 4 chances to put that game away and just couldn't do it. And, especially being on the road and giving the home team a chance to score or capitalize on those mistakes are going to hurt. Callan, and James, we're all baseball guys. They've always said you don't let the other team get an extra out or 2 because it's gonna come back and bite you. I guess the same thing can be said here in the game 1 of the Pacers game. You don't make those little mental mistakes. It's gonna come back to bite you, especially in the close game, and it sounds like it did. So, and that's another game too that, went into overtime, and I don't know about you guys. Last time that the home team went down in both conference semifinals at home in game 1, I honestly couldn't even tell you. And we almost had it happen within the last couple of days. So that game 2 for both series, I think, are going to be huge for the Pacers. And even game 2 for the Mavericks and Minnesota, I think – those are 3 teams that game 2 is going to need to be a lot better.
And as James alluded to, if the Celtics lose game 2, it'd be the recurring trend of every playoff round so far for Boston. But Chris, maybe your thoughts here, more about the Celtics winning this game, taking advantage of playoff inexperience, or is it about the Pacers not using their timeouts to get out of the backcourt on 3 separate possessions towards the end of regulation time?
Yeah, I think it's the timeouts that add a little bit part of this game. You need to use your timeouts wisely in any sport, but just having your timeouts, kind of not having mental errors. But Indiana has Rick Carlisle, who's been to the playoffs, been to the NBA Finals, and they got a quality coach. Whereas Boston, though, they seem like they've been to the playoffs or to the finals a lot, and it just depends on, like we talked about, who has the momentum.
Momentum for sure is a thing. Again, folks, the Pacers faltering to the Celtics 133-128 in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals on Tuesday, they'll pick up and restart shop on Thursday for Game 2 from TD Garden in Boston, Mass, while the Mavericks and Wolves will reconvene on Friday in Minneapolis, Minnesota. With that, guys, we'll quickly get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. We had Game 1 on Wednesday of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Florida Panthers with a shocker, a 3-0 shutout of the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. They outshoot the Rangers 27-23. The Rangers, a very frustrating night at the office for New York. The Panthers go up early in the game, guys, 1-0 on a very kind of fluky goal scored by Matthew Tkachuk. It was a very much a whiffed save chance by Igor Shesterkin. And then the Rangers could not get any offense going. They were outshot miserably throughout the course of the game. They end up finishing outshot 27-23, but were outshot 9-5 in the first period, 9-7 in the second, and then 11-9 they outshot Florida in the third period. They also did not convert on any of their power play opportunities. They were 0 for 2 on the night, and their power play has been stellar so far. But tonight, though, the Panthers keep them at bay. Matthew Tkachuk, 1 goal, 1 assist for a 2-point night. Connor Verhaeghe also had a goal and an assist, and Sam Bennett added a goal as well for Florida, while Sergei Bobrovsky turns in a 19-save shutout, or a 23-save shutout, I should say, for Florida in this game. And I think, James, this was more of a frustrating loss, I'd say, for the Rangers. They have been so good at home this season. Sean McDonough said that they won 30 games at home, a new franchise record. But tonight, man, was a very, very, very frustrating evening for the New York Rangers at home. I watched this entire game practically in its entirety, and Florida going up 1-0 was like no big deal. But then, though, the Ranger offense, man, they really sputtered tonight. They were not in sync. And I also think, though, my dad even brought this up to me, James, the time off, I think, for them knocking out Carolina, Florida playing 7 games with Boston, that a little bit of like that rust showed up in this game. You know, guys making bad passes. I mean, the second goal, sadly, for Florida, or that Florida score, was an absolute backbreaker for the Rangers. Shesterkin comes out to clear the puck away, but is forechecked by a Florida player coming in, and it becomes a very, ill-advised 2-on-1, and the centering pass goes off the stick of Alexis Lafreniere through the 5-hole of Shesterkin to put Florida up 2-0, and that kills any vibe and energy in the Garden, which had been rocking all night despite the scoreline, and then they tap in the empty netter late in the game. So, James, I guess, man, are you at all surprised or maybe a little bit shocked seeing the Rangers falter at home in Game 1 of the conference final versus a very good Florida team here in Game 1?
A little bit shocked, but maybe the Rangers will come out better in Game 2. They'll realize, hey, we got to get going here. I found out this was the first meeting between these two in the playoffs since '97, and I found out Wayne Gretzky was a big part of that series. So that was kind of a shocker. From the first period, I realized the Panthers were playing more physical. They had more hits on the
Big
Rangers.
time.
And I think that kind of brought down not only the players, but the crowd at MSG, where it's like, hey, they don't have it tonight. That's what it seemed like. And the energy was taken out of that building. You see the people with their hands on their chins and all that, and not alive, not awake. But yeah, Florida just kept it going. It seemed like the shots did eventually get closer, but I think at one point there was a big disparity between shots. I saw the goals by Tkachuk. I'm going to say his name is.
Tkachuk, and then Verhaeghe put one in. Then I think Bennett had the empty netter.
Empty netter at the end there with 119. I also read, New York Rangers, they led the league in comeback wins in the regular season, and then 2 in the playoffs, but not tonight. They were just outmatched, and you would think because they got shut out, the Rangers will come out better. But if not, they might be done. I think yesterday I mentioned, Florida's kind of I don't want to say ragtag, but in a way, they don't have people that stand out to you. The Rangers have all that, where they just have guys or guys that have, you're dependent on back then. But as a whole tonight, it just seemed like they didn't have it. Florida came out with the most energy, with the most physical play and hits and shots. I think that was the big, big difference in Game 1 today. tonight.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, James, that, again, Florida almost feels like it's house money. But, Brandon, as I go to you, though, man, and this has really not been talked about. I think I talked about it a little bit on Tuesday. But the Rangers won the President's Trophy. That is given to the team with the best overall record in the entire league. Only 8 times in league history since they gave out the award dating back to 85, 86 has a team won both. They've won the President's Trophy and won Lord Stanley. Begin to wonder a little bit, Brandon. I know it's only game 1, but now is the pressure of the President's Trophy being won by the Rangers, knowing it's also been 30 years since they last won it all in 94, and also being in New York. You know, we know about that New York fan base and how demanding they can be. Brandon, maybe, just maybe, I know, man, it is game 1. I don't want to lose all my marbles yet, but Brandon, could, though, the pressure of this Rangers team, 60-plus wins in the regular season, 30 wins at home, you know, the comeback victories, but now is that pressure of the number 1 overall seed, the President's Trophy being in the bag, now, though, this game 1 stubbing of the toe, you know, could there be something here, Brandon, where the Rangers might be saying the pressure's kind of on a little bit now after losing game 1 in this kind of fashion?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you got to think. I mean, look at the history in all New York teams. I mean, it just seems like, you know, when they get into playoff time, they're expected to win. I mean, they're expected to get there. They're expected to win. You know, maybe outside of, you know, the Jets in football, but it just seems like every single New York team has that mojo that, you know, okay, the regular season is just us tuning up for the playoffs. We get in the playoffs, it's must win. And now, you know, now with the Rangers being the best team in the NHL, you're at home. You know, a lot of these players probably haven't seen playoff hockey for the Rangers, especially playoff hockey in New York for the Rangers. So there's probably a lot of pressure all over the place for that locker room. I mean, I think the coach needs to sit down with the guys on their day off and just say, hey, you know, we got here. It's the same ice. It's the same fan base. I think what they need to do is watch the movie Hoosiers when they go to play their first state basketball title or basketball game. The coach measures the length of the free throws, measures the length.
They measure the
height
free
of the
throw
hoop,
line.
says,
They measure the height of the basket.
and just say, hey, this is what we played with all year long. It's the same dimensions. You know, nothing's changed. And anybody, you know, including myself, that's not a big hockey fan, you know, we all know playoff hockey is a different beast out of it all. And I think if hockey could play like the playoffs day in and day out, it would be one of the top 2 sports watched every game time. It just can't. You can't go out there and pummel everybody day in and day out. That's why, to me, when it comes to playoff sports, hockey is the best. Yes, I just said that, and I also said I'm not a big hockey fan. Not that I'm not a big hockey fan. I just don't have time to watch it right now, but I catch all the highlights. But it just seems like right now, I mean, you look at the 3 games that have been played so far in the, you know, semifinals for basketball and hockey, home teams have struggled for some reason.
They have. I agree.
Well, you know, now tomorrow we got the Stars who, you know, in back of my mind, yes, Chris, I want them to lose because they're in Minnesota. They up and left, but we'll see. We'll see what Minnesota does. I mean, Chris, you know, you guys gotta be living large right now. You got your Cowboy the Mavericks are in the finals. You have the Wild, or both teams playing to get in the finals. You just had the Rangers.
Yeah.
You know, so Dallas is living large. You know, just too bad you don't have a football team to follow.
Well, there was one last year.
Yeah.
And I think the ESPN stat I saw is that it's been 28 years, I believe, since the Cowboys last made the NFC Championship. And here, the Stars, the Mavericks, and the Rangers all made their respective conference or league final series, get to the championship round within the last 2 seasons practically.
I wanna
Real
say
quick, guys,
95,
one comment
96.
from Jack concerning the game tonight. Jack writes in, man, really stunning that we got the result we got tonight. I agree with James. Florida seemed more aggressive and energetic, and the Rangers very lethargic. I agree with the last part, though, Jack, and especially them getting down 1, okay, no big deal, though. But then that fluky goal, though, that, again, Shesterkin comes out to clear the puck away with a forechecker in his way, and he doesn't get enough on the clearance. Then it turns into a 2-on-none practically, and the centering pass deflects off of Alexei Lafreniere's stick into the goal, which I believe was given to Verhaeghe. That made it 2-0. That right there was the backbreaker, and I literally saw people begin to file out of the Garden at that rate. With that in mind, guys, we'll go over to the western side of things. Edmonton and Dallas will kick off their series on Thursday down at America Airlines Arena in the Big D of Dallas, Texas at 5:30 Pacific, 7:30 Central. Chris, I know, man, the Stars, hey, #1 seed in the Western Conference. But I said, though, Chris, though, they've had this core together for so long. Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski, they got Ryan Suter as well. Like a lot of guys who've averaged over like 1,500 plus career games and they've never won a cup. And this group has gone through so much, I think playoff torture, dating back to 4 years ago when they got to the Bubble Cup final but lost to Tampa Bay. They've gotten to the conference final but got bumped out by Vegas or by Colorado or by the eventual Cup champions. And I think, though, that you would hate to feel like you're a stepping stone for the eventual Cup champions when you have seen Tampa Bay beat you in the COVID bubble in 2020. Vegas was the stepping stone over Dallas last season to get to the final, and they won it over Florida. So, Chris, obviously, both these teams, man, this is probably the one series I think, though, I don't know who to root for. I'd love to see Edmonton win it, though. I know that it would break the Canadian curse from 93, of where there's not been a Canadian team that's won the Cup since 93. But though that Dallas hasn't won it since 99, but they've gotten so close yet so far. In the end, it does not matter where they've gone so far at this rate. So, Chris, overall thoughts as the Stars open up play coming up on Game 1. And also, Chris, hoping to have better luck in Game 1 after how they literally let Game 1 go to Colorado last series.
Yeah, you want to start strong. You don't want to fall behind. However, you did beat the previous 2 Stanley Cup champions, so
yeah, that is a great point.
That's somewhere to start. You got a second-year coach, so I mean, there's a lot to think. A lot of positives, but just play your game. It's going to be a loud crowd being in Dallas, and just play your game.
Yeah, Brandon, this series, man, is so intriguing for the fact of the Oilers. Can their head coach, Jay Woodcroft, really early in the season? Edmonton media is on fire. The Oilers are on fire in the worst possible ways. It's a dumpster fire. Miserable start. They fire Jay Woodcroft. They bring Chris Knobloch in, who was also in the American Hockey League, I believe, coaching in Hartford. And they go on this torrid run to be the second best team in their division. Again, they knock out Los Angeles. Great for me seeing them lose again in the first round. Then they eventually go ahead and knock out Vancouver in a very great 7-game series. But also that James and I talked about this being about Connor McDavid's legacy. Like we were talking about where Luka is at on the ladder of being like an all-time great or a great player now of this current era. Like we were James was saying, when it boils down to Luka Doncic. In Connor McDavid's case, you can't right now group him with Crosby and Ovechkin and some other big-name guys because he does not have that championship yet. He's got all the other accolades, though, of being like the best forward. He's got this, he's got the Hart Trophy. He's got the Calder. He's got the Rocket Richard. He doesn't have a Clarence S. Campbell Bowl or a Lord Stanley yet on the resume. And again, you can't put him on that upper echelon just yet. So I think about Edmonton. Then I think about the Stars. Again, they have been a team who has been held together by a lot of veteran, aging superstars. Joe Pavelski, Ryan Suter, to name a couple, Jamie Benn. Again, these guys have played like 1,400, 1,500, 1,700 games and have never won a Stanley Cup in their careers, though. Great coach in place in Peter DeBoer, who has never lost a Game 7 in his career. So, Brandon, maybe in this series, which legacy probably is going to be defined in this one? Will it be Connor McDavid and Edmonton finally winning the Cup, or will it be Dallas finally winning the Cup after being so close so many times over the past 4 seasons?
Well, I mean, honestly, both fan bases have a lot riding on this.
Big
They
time.
want to see their team win. You just said Edmonton, Canada hasn't won it in 20 some years. Big pressure there for Edmonton to bring it home. Especially
And for
live.
the whole country. They haven't won a cup since
Exactly.
93.
Exactly, the whole country. Dallas, on the other hand, their fan base. Okay, you've gone so many times in the conference finals. You've gone to Stanley Cup. Okay, now let's bring it home. So there's a lot of pressure there for their fan base. Kind of like what I said with Minnesota. Okay, we got to the Western Conference Finals. We're not there. Okay, let's see what we can do. We're kind of settling. Dallas fans are probably above that. They're like, okay, we've been there. Even if it was in the bubble, you lost the championship. Even if it was whatever, now you got to bring it home. You've been knocking on the door. Time to step up and get it in there. So I think, honestly, it would be good for all those players in Dallas that have played X amount of games and haven't won the Stanley Cup. And probably some of them, this is probably their first time getting this close. I mean, I'm not the big hockey guy like you are, Kellen, but some of these guys are on their last leg. Coming down the stretch here. They want to get there. Especially if they haven't been there before, and they want that ring. I mean, they want to go off in the sunset, knowing that they got that Lord Stanley Cup trophy sitting at home, that ring that they can just sit and gaze at. The fans want to see it too, and just like Edmonton, they want to see it too. It's been 20 years since Canada's seen the Stanley Cup, unless somebody brought it up there. But so it's one of those things where I think, honestly, this series is going to come down to, I think where the fans or the team that can handle the pressure of the legacy of their team or the country. If they can handle it, I think that's going to be the big outcome, and don't let the pressure get to them.
James Brandon's so right, though, that this is the pressure cooker series. I'm not really looking at Florida, New York being that, because I think that the Western Conference Final is there's the most pressure there. Florida got to the final last year. Yeah. The Rangers got to the final in 2014. This series, though, Edmonton and Dallas, is probably the one that I believe has the most pressure because, like Brandon said, there is so much riding on this. Will Canada finally win a cup for the first time since the Canadians beat LA in 93? Or will Dallas in this group, in this core of guys who have played over, 1,400 to 1,700 career games, finally win it all since, the infamous 99 final with Brett Hull kicking in the puck to beat Buffalo in that controversial final? So, James, maybe in your mind, which team has the most pressure entering the Western Conference Final? Edmonton and Connor McDavid and his crew, or the veteran crew of the Dallas Stars?
I'm gonna go Edmonton. The thing that's been helping them, though, they have those 3 leaders of points, in the postseason right now. Leon, what was his last name again? Drastic.
Yeah, Leon Draisaitl. Zach Hyman, I believe, is also one of them, and then obviously McDavid's McDavid.
McDavid and Bouchard, they're all there. I mean, and those are all guys, especially McDavid. And I said this yesterday, where I feel like Luka Doncic and McDavid, they're both in the same position where they've gotten close or they've gotten to the postseason, haven't been able to make it to the finals. They both need to, and they're both right in the driver's seat with some. They're playing an opposition that really isn't solid, or they're beatable. So that's another thing too. Even though Dallas, they have all the stars and they have all the experience and they've been together for a while, they've yet to do it themselves. So I think one thing, like Chris mentioned, they play not only Dallas, but Edmonton play their game. The experience factor will be huge. I think another thing too, Evander Kane, if he stays out of the penalty box a little bit more, I think that'll help out too, because you don't want to give stars any more power play minutes. So I think that'll be a big deal. The goaltending's been pretty superb. by I forgot his name right here. Yeah, Skinner. He's a Skinner. He's 7-3 this year, so that's really good. And Pickard's been able to come in and do just a little bit there. But it seems like Edmonton, and I have them winning it this series. But the pressure, I think, is more on the Oilers because of how they start the season, then firing their coach, and then ever since then they've been just fine. The pressure, I think, is on them. But also, you mentioned the Stars, just how they've been together for a while. It kind of feels like if not now, when? That's
Right.
what I think about it. So I guess it's kind of even when the pressure, but each team has their own set of pressures.
Yeah, I think I lean towards Edmonton because I think we all said in a roundabout way that this is going to be like Connor McDavid's defining legacy. I think this is the second time now they've gone to the conference final. Can they finally get that, jump that final hurdle and get to the Cup final? Because now, not just that though, guys, they have the pressure of a whole entire country rooting for them to bring the Cup back home to Canada. Again, they've not won a championship, any of the 7 teams up in Canada, since the 93 Canadiens beat Los Angeles in Game 7. And ever since, it's been won by American-based franchises ever since. So I think that there's more pressure on Edmonton, but also it's about the Connor McDavid legacy, or even like his resume even. This is your time to finally get over this hurdle and get to the Cup final, because now we can finally put you, if you win it all, you're in that same conversation with Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby, the Nathan McKinnons of the world, who've all won championships in their career, and they have all the other accolades of scoring titles and, being the points leader and stuff like that. But you don't have that one piece to the puzzle that you can finally put in and finish off your puzzle. Brandon would know, and Chris would know about Cody Rhodes. Finish the story. Connor McDavid, finish the story. Get it done finally for the Edmonton Oilers, and that's where James and I are riding, going to hopefully a 7-game series in the Western Conference Finals. With that, guys, before we get out of here in our hockey topic, we all know our very infamous Kicking It correspondent Isaiah Leung has tried so hard to talk about my beloved sport of hockey. It got very worse over the last couple of days here, guys. And a now deleted TikTok, I give you this beautiful, sarcasm noted, video presentation.
Let me say this. I love Macklin. I think he's a great kid. I think he's going to be a transcendent superstar when he does get drafted by the Sharks, #1, and he plays in the league starting next year. I think he's going to be one of the greatest players to ever play in the National Hockey League when it's all said and done. However, I got a big problem with this video, and it's not the obvious problem. No, the big problem that I have with this video is you're wearing a long sleeve shirt? Are you kidding me, man? Bro, you've grown up in Canada. You've played hockey your whole life. You've played in the snow your whole life, man. Come on, man. We all know hockey games. It's not that cold, man. I've been to a hockey game. I wore nothing but a t-shirt and shorts going to a hockey game, man. Come on, Macklin. You're a great kid. But come on, man. Where's the toughness, bro? Where's the Canadian spirit? You're a Canadian. Where's the Canadian spirit? Canadians aren't scared of the cold. Come on, man. Wearing a white long sleeve shirt. Come on, bro. Come on, man. I expect nothing but shorts, shirt, t-shirt, and slippers from you, man. Come on, bro. What are you doing?
You notice he didn't even have to, he didn't even put his face on it. He kept calling him bro. He's never been to Canada, probably, or maybe he's been to Canada, but he's never experienced, frigid temperatures, and when he went to a hockey game, I think he was cold himself. There's just a lot of things odd about this video. But calling him bro about 3 or 4 times, that's just weird.
Yeah.
This is exactly why, Mr. Leung, that you are not allowed on any of the sports talk shows on this network. And this is why I tell you, my friend, to not talk about my sport. Because it is beyond insulting to be hearing stuff like this, where literally it's an ice hockey game. It's cold, my friend. You are asking somebody who has worked in hockey for 14 years of his 15 years in the sport. It is cold, my friend. It does not matter if it is 95 outside. It is freezing cold in that rink. If you want to know cold, go and travel and visit Brandon during winter in Minnesota and go watch pond hockey, right, Brandon?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this winter don't come up here because this winter was actually very, 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 very mild. But come up on a typical winter. We'll tell you what it's cold like.
So again, Isaiah, spare us the BS about you talking hockey for the last time, or this will happen again where we will be roasting you like chestnuts on the open fire about you and your feebled knowledge of my favorite sport in the best postseason and the hardest trophy to win in professional sports. With that, guys, let's get out of here for the night, and let's now call our shot. We always do this usually where we throw out one topic for the rest of the panel to chew on and talk about. Brandon, I'll start with you, man. Call your shot for Sports Minute tonight. What you got for us?
Oh, let's see. Call my shot. What do I want to call my shot? See, you guys are younger, so actually, Cal, you could probably relate a little bit. So
Don't remind me, I just turned 30.
no, I know, but as a matter of fact, I grew up without a dad, so to me, doing a lot of stuff with my son is just, really heartwarming and stuff like that. So throw out a memory there, father-son bonding moment, sports related, I guess.
Ooh, man. There's been so many. My dad was my baseball coach my whole life. He was my baseball coach from T-ball through high school. I've helped him coach a little bit with travel ball and youth ball and some summer camps to make some money on the side when I've been out of work over my summers. But there's too many for me to list, but I think the best one was having him at the first Major League Baseball game I did for the Angels in 2022. I had my mom and dad both show up. My uncle from Connecticut showed up, and a bunch of my friends came up like last minute to the game from San Diego. But I think having my dad at that first game and all the times that we would go to Padre games at Qualcomm, back in the day where they did Super $5 Monday, where you could go to Qualcomm and get tickets and concessions for $5. We'd go and watch them play somebody, and they would lose every game like they usually did back then. But being able to share baseball with my dad over my life, now getting him into hockey, because of my time being a hockey announcer, and he's come to so many games. They've come to so many games that I've done here and I've done in Anaheim, at Honda Center for the Gulls when they played preseason games. And now literally he can practically sit through a hockey game, ask me for my thoughts, like how I'd ask him about what we would do in baseball situations. And now being able to give my hockey knowledge to him now while we're watching games on the couch is really cool and special to be able to, cherish those moments. And I think I have a picture on my phone. One of my phone wallpapers is a picture of me, my older brother, and my dad at home plate at Qualcomm Stadium. During, I think they had a day where we were able to play catch with our dads on the field at Qualcomm on Father's Day. And then this past October, working in in-game entertainment with the Angels, so I didn't get to work a game for them. But we were invited to a team party for my department, and it was at Angel Stadium. We got to go on the field, take batting practice, play catch in the bullpen, take batting practice. And my dad, again, he's been coaching baseball since 1990. He goes out there and he throws batting practice to like 5 straight batters, including myself. Like, Dad, I'm probably here to have fun, not to be out here and coaching these people, my coworkers to hit a fastball the other way down the right field line for a 2-out double. But it was cool to like share the big league experience with him, though. Again, that first game I got to do, though, he was there, my mom and stuff like that. But I think, though, being able to take him to the ballpark, meet my colleagues, he got to pitch to my boss of in-game entertainment. And then, he got to take BP. I got a picture of him taking his batting practice on the Jumbotron because they had the center field camera lined up from the TV broadcast team. So I have a picture of him taking batting practice on the Jumbotron at Angel Stadium. That was probably my most favorite memory of being with my dad. Was now I get to share Major League Baseball in a different capacity than just being in the stands and drinking beer with them, to now we're actually on the field. I'm taking BP at Angel Stadium. He's throwing BP to me at Angel Stadium. It was like a very big full circle moment, basically. And I'll keep it at that, though. But certainly, Brandon, great question to open up the final segment, though. But I would probably go Angel Stadium for the postseason party. But then 1B's got to be having him at the first ever game I got to do as a PA guy.
All right, James?
Okay, so I'm kind of disappointed tonight. I got kind of news. I guess it's true. But my favorite sports TV show of all time will have its final season next year, allegedly. If it's all true, NBC and Amazon will take place of TNT in 2025 and 6.
26, yeah.
Yeah, that's just horrible news because that's the only show I watch when it comes to NBA or unless NBA TV has highlights or whatever. But on Thursdays, that's always a thing for me to do. Get off work, and rush home and try to catch the NBA tip-off show. Regular season, not watch as many of the games, but always be around for the halftime reports. Always be around for, especially now with the playoffs and they're on the road in Minnesota, and that's always a fun thing. But I'm going to really, really cherish it next year, and then I'll really, really miss it when it's over. So my question, I guess, to all of you is, has there been a sports TV show that you really enjoyed and then it went off the air? I could throw another one for me. It was Stump the Schwab, and he passed away earlier this year. No, I think it was like three weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, fairly recently.
Really?
Howard Schwab.
Yeah, Howie Schwab, passed away pretty recently.
Yeah, so has there been a sports TV show that you remember that you really enjoyed? Start with Callan, I guess.
I'm trying to think of are we sports TV shows that have gone off the air that I used to watch?
Like any halftime show that you really enjoyed the combination? Like I'm starting to really like Subban, Messier, and Levy together. That's been really cool.
Yeah, I don't honestly know, if there's been a sports television show that really has really rattled me to my core, honestly, at this rate. It is a very valid question, though, because of the ever-changing tides that we are right now stuck in with media right deals right now, which we'll talk about on Press Row on Thursday at around 1 o'clock local time here on the West Coast. But honestly, I would probably say, Jack, we'll try and...
That's a no.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, that's a no for me, dog. Hate to say it. Honestly, I would probably say, James, the John Miller, Joe Morgan era of ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Because I recall, though, watching, because I, like you, James, I go down rabbit holes at night to watch some old stuff on YouTube. I sat through, I think, Game 3 of the 98 NLDS. It was John Miller, and I think Ray Knight on the commentary when the Padres beat Houston in Game 3, 2-1. But it was like a time warp. I would even think back to the days of when Channel 4 first got the Padre rights of Mel Proctor, Mark Grant, Rick Sutcliffe calling Padre games on Channel 4 San Diego. And then when Channel 4 lost rights to Fox Sports San Diego, then when Bally came around, and now we know what that's sadly the case is in San Diego. But I would probably, James, go John Miller, Joe Morgan, Ray Knight, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball in the 90s for sure. Brandon, how about you?
Thinking about that, one, coming home mid-afternoon or coming home after school, and WGN would have the Cubs on. I kind of miss having that.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
TV show wise, I mean, now that we have the internet, it kind of defeats the purpose. But This Week in Baseball was always fun one to watch
Oh,
because you got
yes.
to
Great
see what
choice.
you got to see everything, what goes on in the other ball games that you don't see unless you're watching, some news stations or something. And my third one, I think it was I think it was called Wide World of Sports, where they kind of went
Oh, yes.
on.
ABC's Wide World of Sports. Yeah.
Yeah. And every so often they would throw in the Wild World of Sports. They would have a couple clips, and then it would be a Harlem Globetrotters game. I used to love watching them on there. So, for me, I guess those three shows or channels, always were fun to watch on the weekends or after school coming home.
Yeah. I mean, great choices, though, with those three. Chris, how about you maybe for James's Call Your Shot?
Yeah, definitely Stump the Swab. I would never be good at most of those trivia questions, but it was fun to watch. On the NFL side, NFL Network just ended Total Access after 20 years. So, I mean, that's kind of how I got my started with it, but with football. So, probably those two.
Yeah, I mean, I would still go with Sunday Night Baseball in the prime again. John Miller and Joe Morgan, Ray Knight, and their cast of crews doing the games for them on ESPN, because ESPN is just they have really kicked MLB down they've kicked that can so far down the road, it's already like off the grid at this rate.
Yeah.
With how they are so hell bent on the NFL and sports like that. And again, like everyone knows, I despise the NFL, and for a reason being, like, the media, sadly, we play a part of it too, though, is just constantly shoving the NFL down people's throats, where thankfully we don't do that here on C2C, mercifully. We don't really water it down, like other networks that we've been a part of maybe in the past. But Chris, we'll go to you though, my man. Call your shot for the night's program. What you got?
Yeah, what is the next, or which location would be the next expansion team in what sport? Like,
Ooh,
which city?
Toronto is going to Toronto for the WNBA in 2026. We already have a team in Golden State coming in 2025. They already have a name, the Valkyries, name for the warriors that are from Norse mythology. They're going to be playing their games up in San Francisco at Chase Center, and I believe that the announcement for the WNBA's team in Toronto could come as early as tomorrow, I believe, for a teaser they put out on the gram today. But outside of the WNBA, Major League Soccer is coming to San Diego in 2025 next season to go to 30 clubs next season, believe it or not, for MLS. Other than MLS or the WNBA, maybe the Coyotes come back in 5 years if they can get the arena situation figured out down there. Again, I'll have a bit more about that, because there's a dueling story right now on Front Office Sports about both the A's issues right now and also the issues with the Coyotes perhaps restarting up shop. But I think, though, I don't really see any expansion right now. I know that I've said, hey, Seattle and Las Vegas, come on down. You're next up for the NBA. It'll be I would probably say within 3 years, because James and the media rights, like he said, that will be where after that year is when they will probably begin to get the gears in motion for an expansion team or teams in the NBA. I can also confirm that the Phoenix Suns announced earlier on Wednesday their NBA G League affiliate will be playing at Mullet Arena, dun dun dun, the infamous arena where the Coyotes did play in Tempe. And the team is simply going to be called the Valley Suns in the NBA Gatorade League starting next season, but that's going to be the 30th team. So all 30 clubs next year in the NBA G League will be having a NBA affiliate finally at long last. But certainly, Chris, I would think out of the major sports outside of MLS and the WNBA, NBA, probably within the next 3 years, Vegas and Seattle. James, what do you think?
I see nothing in the NFL. I know the Jaguars, they're trying to figure out something.
Send them to London already. Let's go. Get it done.
Just for 2 years, play all their home games there to try to experiment. I'm pretty sure everybody else wouldn't like the travel. But they also got to maybe just go to Orlando, probably just for a couple of years. I think that would be the safest route. For baseball, I keep hearing about Nashville and Orlando.
Montreal.
I don't think any of those are going to happen at all. I just don't see it.
Portland, Oregon.
I don't see Portland either. Just the weather, they'd have to have a retractable roof every damn game.
Sacramento, California, if Las Vegas falls through.
It's just weird how they have. Well, I don't think they have those concrete slabs anymore where that ballpark used to be, where they were going to build it, where Arco Arena next to it.
I think that's being built for affordable housing now, I think, which is two dreaded words, sadly, in the Golden State right now.
Yeah. So I don't really see anything happening other from. My hope is somehow the A's go to Salt Lake City. Like somehow there's like something that happens. That would be funny if it happened.
Dale Murphy does have a group who's trying to bring a club to SLC.
Yeah, maybe. I just think there's too many teams already in the MLB. I don't think there could be any more. And if you had an MLB team, I would put it like somewhere where there isn't a team for miles. So Utah would be one, I guess. But then you have that whole like Midwest and Southern region that really doesn't have a team. Everybody just became a Braves fan because they were on TV and they were the closest thing. But I think Nashville would be a spot there. But I just don't see anything MLB. The NBA, we just keep waiting for that. But Kellen explained that.
Yeah, I mean, who really knows right now at the rate that we're going with where things currently stand? Again, I don't really see any further expansion for the next several years at this rate, just due to the fact right now I think every league is kind of right now totally fine with where they're at. Now, again, I know I said, though, that maybe perhaps that the league, again, that the NBA could in fact be looking at two potential markets for expansion. And I again think that it will be after the media rights do in fact are finally set in stone. I think that is right now where things stand at this rate and at this point in time. Calling my shot real quick before we get out of here for the night. And again, I know that we have talked, guys, so many times about realignment in college athletics. And I know that Jack brought up the NIL lawsuit right now going on at Florida. He brought that up last night. But guys, here is an example, I think, of realignment working. Grand Canyon University and Seattle University, two private faith-based universities, moving conferences from the WAC to the West Coast Conference, which is all faith-based religious universities beginning in 2025-2026 to align more, I think, with the religious views of the conference and where things stack up to give the West Coast Conference 11 schools, not including the Beavers and Cougars who are joining in certain sports in 24-25. But also, guys, earlier today, Fox unveiled their slate of Football Friday contest, which involved a lot of weird things. I saw Washington playing a game, I believe, at Purdue this season. So more than anything else, guys, I'm calling my shot. Brandon, are you ready for the wild, wild season that will be in college football this year with all the realignment?
They're making it so more complicated. Every year it just seems like it's more and more like trying to explain who plays what in the movie Basketball or whatever that movie was. Where this team, if they win, then it goes to they play over here. But if it ends in a tie, then there's like cheerleading push-ups. Or I don't know. I still say within by 2030-ish, it's going to be 4 major conferences, about 20 teams in each conference.
It's almost like that now.
Well, yeah, I think we're going to see where it's just going to be divided the United States in 4 big regions, and then each region is going to have
mountain region, central region, eastern region.
Exactly. And then we're going to have
5 time zones. I agree.
Yeah, it's going to be all these, and then the winners of those regions are going to play in the playoffs. I mean, and these smaller schools are going to be delegated down to not be in the region until they can prove themselves, I guess. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, like I said, it just gets more complicated every year. Just seeing these realignments at the end of the year, be like, "Yep, we're out next year because we get a better deal." It's just like the players. Mid-season they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to enter the transfer portal and I'll show up next week playing over here." So I mean, that's kind of what it turns out to be.
And James, like I said, though, I think this is the only time, James, with the announcement of GCU and Seattle University leaving the WAC for the WCC. I think this is the only time that it makes sense. Now, I'm not saying it's because it helps my conference out in the West Coast Conference, but again, though, two faith-based universities leaving the WAC for a faith-based conference, WCC, all the schools privately owned by the church of some type. It makes sense to me. But James, more than anything else, are you ready for the realignment carousel of 2024, 2025 in college athletics, mainly in football?
That's what I think about it. All of the alignments, I had a list of them or whatever, but it was just too much to fathom. Where I'm at a point where I'm just like, okay, they're there. Okay, that's weird, but okay, that's gonna get some.
That's new.
Yeah. I was looking up the USC football schedule, and it's weird. Like, they are playing Utah State to start off. You play those, gadget, not gadget games, but those
pay-for-play games.
Easy games at first. But then
here's $8 million. Come to LA and let us kick your ass, but you're going to be getting a nice chunk of change.
Yeah, I love when those backfire, though. I love Appalachian State versus Michigan. That was amazing. I remember waking up and like, what?
I've upset the Michigan Wolverines.
I love that era. But it rarely happens, of course. But I'm gonna get used to it. I'm gonna just flow with it. My team is gonna be bad anyway in the Big Ten. I think what the problem is too. A lot of these schools are going to have to, especially the West Coast schools, the Pac-12 schools they're going to go have to play games in those regions where those cold, in those cold weather regions, and they're not going to be used to it, and they're going to get pummeled, and then someone's going to say, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't have done this." Maybe
who was right the whole damn time?
Maybe
yours truly.
Like, we should have just stayed out here. We could have just made a whole big conference of just football teams, football schools, and added a few, and then go up against, the other conferences. I think that probably would have been the better thing, but I think USC, UCLA, even a public school like UCLA, they just wanted to get on that. But like Chip Kelly said, maybe they should have just done this for football, but left everything else the same.
And who was right again about that? Yours truly.
I really wanted that because I'm gonna miss those NBA. Well, eventually they go to NBA, but the college, the Pac-12 rivalries, like Arizona versus UCLA, USC, Oregon versus, Arizona and all that's gone. I'm just hoping they play, non-conference games against one another.
Thankfully, though, Wazoo and UW and Oregon State signed contracts to keep the rivalries going, but it's all non-conference games now, I think.
At least they have that, because I know that's a big deal with the Washington schools and the Oregon schools, because eventually in football, Oregon State, is getting closer to Oregon, or at least upsetting them a little more. Mm-hmm. And then Wazoo is trying to get to where Washington is and coming close to upsetting them as well. And you just love to see that parity, where it's actually a rivalry. It's not just the upset. Or I'm seeing it's not a it's just not a rivalry, but
right.
I'm gonna miss that Pac-12 schedule. So I've been watching a lot of the last of the Pac-12 with the college baseball semifinals going on with the Pac-12 in Scottsdale. I think USC plays, I'm going to say, I forget who they're playing, but I'm definitely be watching. So shout out to Casey King for keeping me updated on that, for just grabbing a little more of whatever I can of that Pac-12 school. So I'm pissed about the realignment, and I know USC won't do well, and this schedule is going to be all over the place for me this year.
Chris, I believe you're a UT Austin guy, man. SEC is calling for you and Boomer Sooner, man. What's your thoughts about the upcoming carousel of realignment for college athletics this upcoming season?
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, but it's gonna be entertaining. And as far as the Longhorns going to, the SEC, I guess it worked for A&M, but it didn't work for A&M, so who knows?
So that, folks, is our calling our shot of the evening, where, again, we get one topic to throw out to the entire panel. With that, guys, final thoughts with that in mind. Mr. Bacon, what you got for us?
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching and tuning in. Entertainment hour this week in on deck, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Plenty is on the horizon. Mr. Gonzalez, great show last night. Even better show tonight with Chris and Big B joining us, man. Final thoughts for you or what?
It's going to be a weird weekend. I'll be away, but I know this network's going to hold it down. Again, we hope that Amy Barber and the rest of the Barber family heals at this time. And we'll keep thinking about them and the pain that she's going through. Hopefully it will heal very soon. So just keep watching Coast to Coast Entertainment Network and look out for the notifications and comment on our shows.
And with that, Big B, final thoughts for you, my friend, or what this evening?
Final thoughts is it's always great to talk sports. Thanks to Jack and Tim, and I think Chrissy had a comment in there. For comment, we always enjoyed the interaction. Again, I just kind of heard some of the news about the Barber family, so I want to wish them the best and speedy recovery and hope everything goes well. It just shows you that something could turn just like that. From your normal routine or just trying to get better. It could take a I don't want to sound like it's a big issue. I don't know what is going on, but just cherish those memories that you have. Cherish the time. And again, I don't know the severity, but I just our thoughts and prayers are out to them.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Again, folks, we opened up the show again as if you perhaps missed it, folks, but again, you probably will not be seeing Adam for the next couple of, I'd say, days, maybe at least the next week, roughly. Again, there's been some health problems have come up for the family at this rate, at this point in time, and I even told the SportsMinute group chat today, if we were going to do the show, if Adam needed to step away and let someone else host it, I'd be willing to do it. And he said, please proceed. Let's not, make it a pity party for me and the family, host the program, go from there. And Adam was very, very appreciative that someone stepped in and that we were able to get the program off the ground and running on this Wednesday evening here on the left coast. But again, folks, just ask that you keep Adam and his wife and their family in your thoughts and prayers. Again, just some stuff has popped up. So again, you may or may not be seeing Adam on SportsMinute or on Kicking It for that matter. We may actually even just shutter the program on Thursday to let Adam have his time to be with his family, as Brandon was alluding to. I did miss a couple of comments from Jack about our roast of Isaiah for his Macklin Celebrini commentary about him wearing a long sleeve shirt to a hockey game, a ice hockey game. And Jack also said, "Oh my gosh, I am floored. This is even worse than I even ever dreamed it would be when you guys, me and James, all mentioned that he did that last night. Can we please have him explain himself? He would actually be yelling at Macklin for eating popcorn and having a soda and not eating pancakes or waffles with maple syrup and a Canada Dry instead at the game. Ha, ha, ha." I mean, again, Jack, disclaimer again. if it's hockey talk from Isaiah Leung, don't buy it, whatever you do, unless it comes from yours
If
truly.
it's sport talks in general, don't buy it.
Even if it's sports talk in general, but especially if it's hockey chatter, it's a hard pass. So with that, guys, real quick, again, one last announcement here from yours truly over here. Again, James and I dropped the name again, folks. If you missed out on Tuesday, we officially unveiled that Coast to Coast is adding another sporting league to its portfolio as of Thursday after I talked to my buddy Josh Fontaine. Again, guys, we are adding the Puck and Roll podcast for an upcoming Elite Draft Roller Hockey League for men's hockey here locally in San Diego. I will be serving as their in-game announcer at the Escondido Sports Center. So we're going to be airing our program right now on Coast to Coast. We have some hurdles to jump over on Thursday when it comes to actually getting league platforms also involved, though. But that, by the way, folks, again, as I said, was voted on. The name was voted on by you, the viewers and fans out there, who, again, turned in over 50 different submissions to various surveys I had put out from Monday till today with the name of the podcast. But I also, folks, can confirm we now have this kick-ass logo to debut for the program using the three colors from our league for the EDL coming up in late June. Now, again, folks, we're going to be working on some of the logistical factors on Thursday. Again, we're going to be having a huge reach with this. Again, my goal is to now get Coast to Coast on board as a media partner with the EDO, which would basically just let us be able to stream the podcast on here, and then I could take the audio, make it into a Audible podcast on Spotify or on podcast platforms, and we'll be having folks like double the sponsorship coming in that we have to advertise for the league and advertising our own companies here. So this is going to be, I think, a total absolute win-win for the league, for myself, for Josh Fontaine, the league commissioner and president, and for us here at Coast to Coast Entertainment to add another sporting outlet onto the platform here and also bring a very exciting sport, folks, in inline hockey. Again, I played inline hockey for about 4 years of my life when I was younger and still play the game sporadically when I have time. But again, folks, Puck and Roll is going to be coming probably in late June. We might actually even put a episode out later this week. We do have open tryouts coming on Saturday, so we may in fact try and bring Josh and some of the guys on Friday or Sunday to maybe again kind of get the ball rolling here. But we're looking at a very late June start time for our Saturday schedule of games. But then we'll have a Friday show to kind of preview the upcoming day of action. Then we'll recap things on Sunday. So we'll be working around entertainment hour and also working around the on-deck schedule as well, so we don't step on toes around here. Again, I've been really diligent about asking Brandon and the higher-ups of the network for permission to do a lot of things around here because I don't want to be the guy who comes in like, hey, I know everything, bow down, kiss my feet. I don't want to be that guy, and I've been very appreciative to Chris and Brandon, Adam and J-Mac, Tim and Joanne for being so appreciative of ideas to bring to the platform here. And we'll also, of course, folks, be working around the schedule too. Thankfully, with the Cougars schedule, with them playing on Saturday too, and us playing on Saturday as well, there'll be no conflict with game streaming because we're only going to be covering Friday and Sunday where we preview our games, then we recap our games Friday and Sunday, so we won't be having any games as of now streamed on Saturday. So I think we'll be having a couple of our other outlets that are a part of the EDL family of content creators actually streaming the games on Saturdays. But I already have laid out some segments, and again, we'll hopefully, folks, get the ball rolling with Puck and Roll on C2C, hopefully after Thursday. But again, have to work out some logistics with the boss on Thursday around 12 noon Pacific time. With that, folks, we thank you all for joining us here tonight on this Wednesday. Again, a big ups and thank you to Tim and Jack and Christy for joining us here tonight on the program. Again, folks, Press Row is back with you on Thursday, tomorrow around 1 o'clock Pacific time when I get out of that meeting. At noon, I'll be literally still in the studio, and we'll be being able to get to Press Row on Thursday, and we'll have plenty of folks to talk about on Thursday when it comes down to the announcement of the Golden State Valkyries and the WNBA, some other hurdles in European soccer. We're going to be going a lot of different avenues, folks, on PR on Thursday. And again, folks, we are holding out hope for kicking it on Thursday, but we're probably right now not hold my breath for the program at this rate to, again, let Adam and the family have some more time as the week comes to a close. With that in mind, though, folks, thanks for hanging with us here tonight. For Big B, Brandon Herrera, James Gonzalez, and Crispy Bacon, Chris Mabry. Yours truly, Cal McClurg, saying good night or good day from Southern California. We'll see you folks back here for PR on Thursday around 1 o'clock Pacific time back here on C2C, folks. Till next time, good night. Bye.